But I want to start off with a story that is very troubling on both ends of the spectrum, from a police standpoint, from Breonna Taylor's family and their standpoint, and minorities. It's terrible. Of course, I'm talking about the Breonna Taylor situation and what is taking place now with Louisville police. They've declared a state of emergency. I'll get to that in a moment, but I want to give you guys a little bit of background on what happened. What happened to Breonna Taylor? Obviously, she was shot by police and killed. This is a horrible, horrible story. There are no winners here. But it's important to give you background on exactly what happened, at least according to reports. What exactly took place? Was the shooting justified or not? Well, what we know is that police officers were executing a search warrant, and they entered the apartment. It's called a battering ram into the apartment of Miss Taylor's home, 26 years old, by the way, an emergency room technician. Police were investigating some men who they believed were selling drugs in the Taylor household, and they had a judge that signed off a warrant. So police were legally allowed to do what they did as far as breaking into the home. Nobody broke any laws. Here's what happened, though, according to reports. According to the reports, Taylor's boyfriend, not a good dude, dealing drugs. He had a weapon on him, and he was the one that fired the first shot that hit a police sergeant in the leg. Now, I'm telling you this right now. If police enter a home and somebody shoots at an officer, and even worse, is struck by an officer, everybody in that home, their life is in danger because police are going to shoot. I do not believe that anybody in that home, police wanted to kill or hurt anybody that was innocent in that home. But the second somebody fires a weapon, and it appears as though Breonna Taylor's boyfriend fired the weapon, then it's fair game, and police have a right to use deadly force. I would certainly be in fear in my life if I was a police officer. So what takes place next? Well, they were in bed, Taylor and Walker, and as I mentioned, that was the moment where Walker got out of bed, which is Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, and shot at one of the officers. Fired the gun once. Police responded by firing several shots. Sadly, some of those bullets hit Breonna Taylor. According to her boyfriend, she was coughing and struggling to breathe for at least 5 minutes after she was shot, and then it took another 5 minutes for an ambulance to get her to try to revive her, and sadly, she lost her life. This is a horrible situation, right? Yes, it appears as though the boyfriend who fired his weapon first and struck an officer is responsible, not the police officers. But Breonna Taylor didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, you could say, well, you probably shouldn't date a guy that's going to shoot at cops. You probably shouldn't date a guy that's dealing drugs in your house. But she did not deserve to be shot. And this is a very, very sad situation. This was a woman who had a good job, medical personnel, who did not have a rap sheet, who was a law-abiding citizen. Sadly, she chose a boyfriend that probably wasn't a very good choice. And sadly, that mistake cost her life, which is insane. It's horrible. But it appears as though police didn't do anything wrong in this case. And you hear everybody talking about Breonna Taylor. See, this is where I have a problem. We talk about the black leaders in this country. For example, we think of Ferguson, right? And a lot of people still want to talk about Michael Brown. That shooting was justified. Michael Brown never had his hands up. There was no hands up, don't shoot. And, that narrative was going on forever. That officer did nothing wrong. Michael Brown was a thug. Yes, and there are plenty of other cases. George Floyd might have been a bad guy. He didn't deserve to die. That was police brutality, maybe even murder. Philando Castillo, there's plenty of cases that I could roll out. Eric Gardner is another one. Just because you resist doesn't mean you deserve to die. That's what I'm trying to say here. And what happened to Breonna Taylor was horrible. People have a right to be upset and angry. But you shouldn't hold your anger in that case towards police. You should hold your anger towards the dope boyfriend who decided to pull out a weapon and shoot at a police officer and strike him. If he didn't do that, Breonna Taylor would still be alive today. And that is why I do not believe, and I feel horrible for Taylor's family, but I do not believe that Breonna Taylor the family should have been awarded a large sum of money. I don't think the police did anything wrong, and I think that sets a very bad precedence, and I'll tell you why. It sets mixed signals when you're now paying the Breonna Taylor family $11 million when police did nothing wrong. You want to sue somebody, sue the boyfriend's family or sue the boyfriend. And now Louisville police are declaring a state of emergency. They now have barricades that are blocking traffic ahead of this anticipated announcement. They announced today, actually, this morning, that they'll begin setting up barricades in the downtown area and restricting some vehicles' traffic in anticipation of the announcement from Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron regarding the investigation. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what that means. It means that this announcement that's going to come out, it's going to get people upset, particularly those in the Black Lives Matter community. People are going to be very upset. Why? Because I can tell you right now there's going to be no charges that are going to be filed towards any of those officers because I don't believe those officers did anything wrong. If somebody shoots at a cop, even worse, if one of your fellow police officers are shot and struck by a bullet, you have the right to fire your weapon into that house. What reasonable human being would not do that? You want to end the threat. Now, you could say, well, wait a second. Why didn't those officers back up? Why didn't they back up and wait for the SWAT team? Okay, that's one option. But when your officers are in danger for their lives, you fire the weapon to end the threat. I don't believe the officers did anything wrong in this case. I truly do not. And trust me, if officers do anything wrong, I am the first person to come on the radio and go after those officers like Officer Chauvin. I was the first person, the first moments of this radio show to go after that officer for what took place in that murder. And if officers do wrong, they need to be held accountable. They just didn't do it in this Breonna Taylor case. But now you have officers in Louisville that are afraid. They're declaring a state of emergency. And I'm going to tell you something. I believe the majority of Black Lives Matter protesters are good people. I really do. But if people hurt police, throw bottles at police or rocks or whatever they're doing, arrest those bastards and put them in jail for assault and whatever else. Throw the book at them because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of these idiots, and it is a small percentage, but I'm tired of these morons at these BLM protests that are lighting things on fire and causing havoc because you are hurting the cause. The actual real cause that people care about is police brutality and people being treated as equals. And when you do that sort of stuff and you break the law and you try to hurt people or damage property, it hurts your cause. This is a statement from Louisville Police. They say due to increased attention and activity in the anticipation of an announcement, which will probably happen today, by the way, with Attorney General Daniel Cameron regarding the Breonna Taylor case, a decision was made to accelerate plans to physically restrict access to the downtown area. That is a sad state of affairs that we are in right now because now you're going to have police departments across the country that are afraid. And they're going to be requiring, declaring state of emergency. Why? I mean, am I wrong on this one? Do you think the police officers acted wrong in this Breonna Taylor situation? It's terrible because Breonna Taylor didn't do anything wrong. It's horrible. This isn't the first time this has happened where police officers have gotten into a shootout with a criminal and somebody innocent has died. Sadly, this has happened before, black or white. I'm not sure that the color of their skin had anything to do with this. I think it had everything to do with the boyfriend acting like a complete buffoon and criminal. Probably shouldn't have been dealing drugs in that house, number one. And number two, probably shouldn't have shot at a police officer. Probably not a good idea. And it wasn't a good idea because his girlfriend is dead now because of it. Am I wrong on this, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think the police officers should be held accountable for what took place? Or do you agree with me that the police officers didn't do anything wrong? That they were in jeopardy of their own lives and they were in fear of their own lives, and that's why they started firing into Breonna Taylor's home? Well, an announcement is going to come out today, and I believe that announcement by the Attorney General is going to be no charges filed. I don't believe any of these officers are going to be charged, and it's going to be a closed and shut case. But my issue is, then why pay Breonna Taylor's family $11 million? Does that make any sense to you?